All right, today we're talking about a movie that completely blew up the gangster genre. I'm talking, of course, about Martin Scorsese's 1990 masterpiece, Goodfellas. We're going to break down just how it ripped up the old rulebook to create something so raw, so real, and yeah, so revolutionary. And this quote from Scorsese himself really just nails it. He didn't see this as some slow, serious drama, no way. For him, it was like a crazed amusement park ride. And that's exactly what it feels like, right? It just grabs you from the very first second and absolutely does not let go. So, to really get what Scorsese did, you have to look at what came before. I mean, The Godfather was the king, right? It was mythic, it was grand. Scorsese himself called it epic poetry. But he wanted to do the total opposite. He was after the gritty, day-to-day reality, not the opera, but what he called street corner talking. This wasn't a story about the Dons and their big, dark rooms. Nah, this was about the guys on the ground, the foot soldiers.
So where did this totally new approach even come from? Well, it didn't start with some novelist making things up. It started with a reporter's notebook.
The entire blueprint for the movie comes from this book, Wise Guy. It's a nonfiction book by Nicholas Pileggi, who was a crime reporter. And this wasn't just a story. Pileggi basically transcribed the life of the real Henry Hill from hours and hours of interviews. All the crazy details, the dialogue, the little moments, it was all right there on the page, just waiting for a camera. And that led to Scorsese's big idea, his whole vision for the film. He wanted it to feel like a staged documentary. I mean, think about that for a second. The goal was to make you, the audience, feel like you were right there in the room, like you'd been trailing these guys for 25 years with a little 16mm camera, just capturing the messy, unfiltered truth. And this obsession with authenticity was just absolute. We're talking Robert De Niro calling up the real Henry Hill to ask about tiny details like how he held his cigarette. Scorsese cast actual ex-mobsters as extras to get the vibe right. And get this, the food in that famous prison dinner scene, that was cooked by Scorsese's own mom, Catherine, who was on set making sure the sauce was just right. You can't make this stuff up. Okay, so you had this stage documentary feel, but now you need a visual style to match it. And boy, did Scorsese deliver. He came up with a style that was just as restless, just as chaotic and drug-fueled as the lives these guys were living. He borrowed a ton from the French New Wave guys, like Francois Truffaut, and just shattered all the old filmmaking rules. His big weapon? The freeze frame. He just stopped the action cold, right in the middle of a scene, to let Henry's narration drop in a crucial piece of info or to just hammer home a really powerful moment. And Scorsese's reasoning for this is brilliant. He said he wanted to mimic how memory works. And it makes perfect sense, right? Think about your own life. A sudden shock, a moment of pure joy, a really brutal image. Those are the things that get burned into your brain. The freeze frames do the exact same thing. They lock those moments onto the screen with that same kind of shocking power. But look, this wasn't just a one-man show. Scorsese's crazy vision was brought to life by his crew. You had cinematographer Michael Ballhaus, whose camera is just constantly moving, gliding through scenes. And then you have the legendary editor Thelma Schoonmaker, whose editing is just razor sharp. The three of them together, they're the ones who created that relentless, breathless rhythm of the film. So they've got the real story, they've got this wild style, but how do you make the audience really feel what it's like to be Henry Hill? Well, you've got to pull them in. You've got to seduce them with the sights and the sounds of that world. And there is no better example of this than maybe the most famous shot in the whole movie, the walk into the Copacabana. This isn't just Scorsese showing off his filmmaking chops. No, this whole scene is designed to make us, the audience, fall in love with the gangster life, right alongside Karen. For almost 3 full minutes, we follow Henry and Karen in one single, unbroken shot. No cuts. We go in the back door, down these winding hallways, right through the middle of a chaotic kitchen, and land at a perfect ringside table that seems to just appear out of thin air. It's a pure, uncut shot of power and access. Now, the Steadicam operator later said that if they had just walked straight through, it would have been, well, pretty boring. So they built in these little moments, what they called in-shot edits. Every time Henry stops to talk to someone or turns to greet a couple, it's all perfectly choreographed. It justifies a camera move, makes it feel natural and spontaneous, and turns a simple walk into this beautiful dance of power. And then you have the music. Oh man, the music. The soundtrack in Goodfellas is not just background noise. It's practically a character itself. It acts like a second narrator, telling you exactly what year it is, where you are, and whether things are going great for the crew or very, very badly. And here's the crazy part. The music wasn't just slapped on at the end. The music editor said that Scorsese knew what songs he was going to use 3 years before they even started shooting. A lot of scenes were actually designed and filmed around the music, so every single track, from Tony Bennett to the Rolling Stones, was a crucial part of the story's DNA from the very beginning. Okay, so you've built this incredibly real, immersive world. Now you have to fill it with characters who feel just as real. And for Scorsese, the key to that was simple. Let the actors improvise. Give them the freedom to create. Which brings us to this scene. Funny how? I mean, it's one of the most tense, most unforgettable moments in movie history. And guess what? It wasn't in the book. It wasn't even in the script. It came from a real and genuinely terrifying memory. It turns out this actually happened to Joe Pesci. Years before, he was working as a waiter and he told a real wise guy he thought he was funny. And the guy's reaction was, well, let's just say not great. So Pesci brought that story to Scorsese. They worked it out, improvised it, and then filmed it with the cameras focused just as much on the other actors' nervous reactions. That feeling of real danger you get watching it, that's because it was. And this trust in improv creates some pure movie magic. Take the dinner scene at Tommy's mom's house, right after they've dealt with Billy Bats. That whole thing was almost entirely improvised by the actors and Catherine Scorsese, who played the mom. That famous bit about the painting with the two dogs, one's going this way, one's going that way, that was just them riffing, creating a moment that's somehow hilarious and incredibly dark at the same time. The movie's impact was huge right from the start, but its path to becoming this universally loved masterpiece, well, it wasn't exactly a smooth ride. Yeah, hard to believe now, but despite all the amazing reviews, Goodfellas got pretty much snubbed at the Oscars. It was up for 6 awards, but only took home 1, and that was for Joe Pesci. It lost Best Picture and Best Director to Dances with Wolves. I know. It's a decision movie lovers still argue about to this day. And the film's ending is just so brilliant and subversive. Henry turns, he breaks the fourth wall, and he talks right to us. And what's his big tragedy? What's his ultimate punishment? It's not jail. It's not the violence. It's becoming one of us, an average nobody who has to wait in line like a schnook. The worst thing that could possibly happen to him was losing his status. And that's what makes this film so great. It doesn't give you any easy answers. It shows you how unbelievably seductive a life without rules can be, and then it shows you the messy, inevitable crash. And it leaves us with this really unsettling question. Is Henry Hill's story just a dark twist on the American dream, or is it the American dream, with all the pretty parts stripped away down to its most ruthless, wanting core? And that question right there is what makes Goodfellas an absolute masterpiece.